Hi, it's Trevor from Ultimatum Theme. Today I'm going to show you how to make a template and layouts in Ultimatum. So, first thing is we've got an installation of WordPress, fairly new, and I've just installed Ultimatum Theme. At the moment the 2015 theme here is active, and you can see what the front page looks like with some demonstration content in place, and fairly straightforward. I'm going to activate Ultimatum Theme now. So just click on this button here, and it does give you the option of going to visit the site, but as we've already got it open, let's go and have a look and see what that now looks like. And you can see it's very basic. All the information's there, but it's not at all formatted. So flick back to Ultimatum Theme here, and you can see the other things that have appeared are the Ultimatum toolsets and the Ultimatum theme. I'm most interested today in the Ultimatum theme, so I'm going to take a look at templates here, and I can see there's a basic template, and this link over the right here will take me to layouts. But it's very important with Ultimatum theme that you don't actually work with Ultimatum as your theme. It's really important that you make a child theme right from the very start. Otherwise, when you come to make your own changes to Ultimatum, they could be overwritten when you update Ultimatum. So making a child theme means everything you change stays the way you want it. So let's create the child theme. I'm actually going to base mine on a boot swatch theme called Yeti. So I'm going to call mine My Yeti. We can have a space in there, that's not a problem. Do not tick this box here, because it will move the template that's already in Ultimatum through to the child theme, leaving Ultimatum without any template in there. So don't tick that. You can add a child theme image, but you're better off doing that later once you're happy with the look and feel of your website. So let's just click Save. And you can see it gives us the opportunity to go to the themes page and activate it, so we'll do that. And there's my child theme. As you can see, most themes have an image to show you what they look like. The child theme at the moment doesn't, but that doesn't matter. We'll just click Activate. And we'll have a quick look at the front page now. And lo and behold, it's completely blank, no content whatsoever. So that's a bit of a shock. So let's go and see why that's the case. So here we are, we can see My Yeti here now instead of Ultimatum, and we can go into templates. And there's a big warning here: you don't seem to have set a default template, or you miss a default layout. Well, you can see there's no template listed under here, so we need to go and create one. So I'm going to create one. You can give this any name you want. I'm just going to call it Desktop, just in case later I want to create a mobile one, and we'll call it Desktop Yeti. There are some choices of framework to use here, but I would strongly recommend you choose Twitter Bootstrap recommended. That's actually Twitter Bootstrap 3. I think the latest version is 3.3.2. And here you've got a choice of all of the Bootstrap boot swatches. Now, it is actually quite important for you to make your choice based on these, so I'm going to spend a moment just showing you what we mean by this. So over here we've got the boot swatch website, which is bootswatch.com, and if you scroll down you can see the basic themes that you were just viewing here. And each of these has different fonts, colours, backgrounds, and so forth. And you can go through them and look at the fonts and decide which one suits you. My favourite of all of these, I think the one that's most flexible, is Yeti. So I'm just going to click on Yeti and show you what it looks like. The navbar in Bootstrap is not particularly good, and Ultimatum comes with its own navbar, so I'm going to ignore that. But here it shows you the buttons that you can have. They're already pre-written, pre-coded into the CSS, So as long as you select Yeti, you're going to get buttons looking like this, and all of these block level. This is what your posts would look like, with a title and text and tables, what your forms will look like, and so on. So there's a lot of styling already done for you. I particularly like these panels. They're very useful, and we'll come across those a little bit later. Okay, so that's Boot Swatch Yeti. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to choose that. There's Boot Swatch Yeti. And I'm going to make it responsive. If you don't make it responsive and you don't have a mobile version of your website, Google's not going to be too happy with you on page rankings. So it's probably a good idea to choose responsive. And I would leave all these settings as they are. They're generally not worth changing. This option here, use CDN, is really for power users, so try not to use that. It ignores a lot of your settings if you tick that to yes, so you're better off leaving it at no. And the CSS generator, that will make a CSS file based on all of the settings you choose later, so that's a really good idea to leave that one as is. So let's just save that, and you will see that the warning is still there. If we hover over the name, you can see I get a sub menu here. It's not normally there. There it is. It tells you that it's responsive, and here, that's the one we want, set default. So let's just click that, and you can see immediately I've got a blue bar down the side here, and my warning still says I'm missing something. So if it's not the default template, it must be a default layout. So let's just go to layouts, and there's nothing in here at all. So what we need to do here is to create our page, and Ultimatum generally, although you can make it in different ways, makes your page in three parts: the header, the main body, and the footer. And it's not a bad idea to actually create the header and footer first, so you can then drop them onto the above and below the main body. So we're going to create a partial layout, which is the header and footer. So let's just create one. So we add new, and here I'm just going to call this header, and it's a partial layout because it's just part of the page. So we're going to click save. This will take us straight into the layout editor, and you can see there's absolutely nothing in there at the moment, and that's because we need a row. So I'm going to click a row, and in my case what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the logo on the left hand side and then a menu. So I'm going to choose, let's pick 33% and 66%. Now this is using the Bootstrap framework, so there are 12 columns in a framework, so 33% is a 4-column block and 66% is an 8-column block. Let's just pop that in, and you can see we've now got the columns with a row. And go down the side here and you can see I've got Ultimatum logo. So I'm going to drag and drop this. This has got the dotted line, you can drag it in. I don't have a logo at the moment, so I'm just going to call mine My Yeti. Oops, let's have a capital letter on Yeti. And we've got lots of extras here, which, for example, we can hide this on desktop, hide it for tablets, hide it for mobile, and we can also set those panels that we saw over on the Boot Swatch page. So we can style it just like those panels we saw. And go back to the Boot Swatch page and you'll see which one's which, and that will add that style to it. And we can also add an extra CSS class here if you want to attach specific functionality to it. There are many Boot Swatch ones which you can use, so you might well get to experiment with that. I just close that again. The logo tag, that's the tagline, so My Wonderful Site or something like that. I'm not going to put that in, I'm just going to leave it as My Yeti. And we can save that, close it so that it's not taking up as much space. Okay, and we'll put a menu on the other side. So here we go, there's an Ultimatum menu. I've got a number of menus that I've already got created because I brought in some sample content, but your menus would appear here. So if you haven't made one, you'll have to go and make one, but I'm just going to leave all pages there. And generally my choice is the Ultimatum menu, which is actually a combined mega menu and many other functions all rolled into one. So that's the one I'm going to go for. By default, it always aligns itself to the right, so it's in the right place for this particular one. I don't want the search on it, and I may well want to convert it into a mobile menu, a little hamburger type thing. So I'm going to put in there 767 pixels, which I think is the Bootstrap value. It might be 768, but anyhow, I'll put 767 in there for now. And I'm going to pick mobile on top, which is the little hamburger that people may recognise, the 3 lines. I don't want a navigation title at all. I just want the hamburger, so I'm going to delete that. And again, you can see you've got the exact same options as you had for the Ultimatum logo. The CSS class, hide for desktop, etc. So we don't want any of those at the moment, and we're just going to save that. And we'll close that. And that's pretty much it for the header. So we'll just save that and go to the layout screen. We could also do with a footer. You'll probably end up doing something programmatical in the footer, but for now I'll just do a simple one. So we'll go to here, type footer in, make it a partial, save it, and again we'll be offered the opportunity to insert a row, so I'm going to insert the row. And on this one, I'm not going to have anything special in here except a copyright notice for now. A lot of people put things like social media link and so forth in the bottom. It's sometimes even contact forms, so you may well end up making something more complicated later on. So we'll just insert that. And we're going to use something quite clever now. We're going to bring a what you see is what you get editor into that box. We'll just pop that into there. It doesn't need a title, so the title won't come off here, but I'm just going to put this one, going to call it copyright, so I know what it is. And I want to edit the content. And an editor appears, which is great. So I'm just going to put here, copyright 2015 my Yeti. And I'm going to center that content. We could do all sorts of things with it, format it and so forth, but for the time being that's fine. I'm going to save and close that. So there it is. It shows me what's going to appear on the page, and that's absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to save that and close it, save, and back to the layout screen. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a full layout. So let's create an add new. And your first one, it's a really good idea to actually call this default, so that you know it is the default layout. It's a full layout, not a partial. So we're not on partial now, we're on a full layout, and we'll save that. And you'll see immediately we have got something here. So before I do anything else, I'm going to drag the header into the header, and I'm going to drag the footer. You notice it goes pink, so you can drop it. Once it's pink, it's quite difficult to get it, but just drop it as it goes pink and you see it's in the place. I'm now going to insert a row. Nothing spectacular here. We're just going to put 100% row in. If you wanted sidebars, for example, you might well choose some of these other options, but for me that's fine. And I'm going to insert. And here, this is really important to understand how Ultimatum and WordPress works. They loop through your database, pulling content out of the database. So the widget over here that you're going to choose is probably either a default loop or a custom loop. And first time round, almost certainly a default loop. So let's have a look and see what we've got. On the single post layout, do we want the title? Almost certainly we do. Where do we want an image? You might want to have featured images. You might want them on the top of the post, you might have them on the left of the post, on the right of the post. In my case, I'm going to switch off the images, so I'm not going to have any images. But were you to have images, you need to choose what you want to show if there's no image. And I frequently switch that off. But of course, if there's no image, then it won't be there at all. Do you want to show a comment form and comments? Now, a lot of people don't actually want comments on their blog, so I'm going to turn that off for now. But I do rather like to have my taxonomy. Now, that's all of your tags and categories and so forth, and I'm going to put that after the content. And the metadata, that's who the author is, the date it was written, etc. And I'm going to put that after the title. And here immediately you can see that at the moment, by default, it's going to show me the date and comments. Well, I've switched comments off, so if I drag comments over into this box, that's fine. And I might well want my author. So let's pop the author in under the date. So it'll have date and author. If you've got more than one in here, you will want to separate it to go between them. If you've only got one, you'll need to delete this separator. Well, I've got two, so I'm going to leave the separator there. And I'm not going to switch the post navigation on. That simply says take you to the next post or the previous post, but I'm going to leave that off. And again, here we go, we can put CSS classes, hide for desktop, hide for tablets, hide for mobile, etc. Again, I'm not going to do anything with those. I need to save that, close it, save it. We go back to the layout screen, and here we can see that we do not have anything set as default yet. We hover over this, set default. That blue line's appeared. If we go back to templates, the error message has gone. And lo and behold, here's my website. It looks like I've got too many items on the menu for them all to appear as one line. There's my Yeti, there's my tagline, which is put in for me. Not that I wanted it particularly, but nevertheless it's put it in there. And there's my copyright. It lets me edit this from the front end, shows me who's written it and on what date. So we've got a basic layout. Let's say for a moment though that we'd really like the background colour of this here to be a different colour, a light yellow. And I want it across the full page. Let's go and have a look and see how that's done. So we're going to layouts here, and that's the header we were interested in. So we'll go and edit the header. And if we hover over this little box here, we can see both wrapper and container. The container is the middle bit, the actual content in the middle. The wrapper goes across the full screen. So it's that one I want. So click on it, and these little sections will open up and close, giving us options to put various CSS styling in. And again, we've got the option to put classes in and hide this particular row from various devices. This is really useful if you want a row only to show, for example, for desktops. You can hide it from tablets and phones. I don't need that at the moment. I was interested in the background colour. So we're going to pick a background colour, and I said a light yellow, so pick one of the yellows down at the lighter end, and there we go, there's my light yellow. Not particularly good. I think we'll get it a bit darker than that. Let's move it up a little bit more. There we go. If I wanted an image in the background, I can upload the image here and so forth. I'm just going to save that. Save. Go back to the front page. Refresh that. And there we go. Across the full width of the page. So you can see there is a change straight away. Very visual, very easy to set up. So that's not at all hard. let's go and have a look at this page and see exactly what you've got control over. So you've got control over the wrapper, which is the full width, the container, which is just these two bits here, so what they're sitting on top of. Let's just show you what happens if I put a different colour there. So it may well be that you want a yellow background going down the side for a moment. So let's see, what can we do? Let's do something silly, like put a border around the bottom, for example. So we go for a border, a nice thick one, and we'll go for a deep blue. So a nice deep blue. Set it as solid. There we go. Save. Save. And away we go. And there you can see the blue border just underneath this central content section, but it's a bit too close to that bit there, so let's go into there again and throw the container there. So if we go to margins and padding, we'll put some padding on the bottom. Let's put 15 pixels in there. The PX is already there, so we can just go to pixels, save that, save, and refresh, and we'll have a look. And there we go. You can see it's moved it away a bit. And indeed you can do the same with these here. You can move them down. So you can see we're already very quickly starting to style the page. We also have a little cog here and a little cog here. And if we press those, yet another box appears, exactly like the others. So for my logo, because this is the logo one, I'm going to select a background colour, and I'm going to go for a light red, and save that, and save that, and there you go. Now you can see that the red is only around the logo, this box here, and that's sitting inside a container which itself is sitting inside the wrapper. So we can see here's the widget, this bit here, top and bottom, is the container that it's sitting inside, and then the full width is the wrapper. So we can see we've got quite a lot of settings that we can control. So we can get into there. Let's for a moment go back to the layout screen and have a look at the default itself. So I've got my main post showing at the moment, and down the side here I've got lots of other widgets that I can start to add content to my page. Some of the most important ones you'll use are video, to drop a video in. You may well put a slider of some description in, but to do that you need to go to settings, custom menus, recent posts, search, a tag cloud. An include page allows you to create a page in Visual Composer and then include that onto the layout itself. That's quite a useful one, and people find themselves doing that a lot. We've got some other settings at the top here which are really important. Let's have a look at those. These are only available for full layouts. You can make the layout fluid, and that means that the page becomes full width completely and not the content in the middle. And then there's a sticky left and sticky right. And how much do you want it stuck to the left or right, and where do you want the breakpoint? The header, you can make that sticky, so as the page scrolls, the header stays at the top of the page. It's really useful, especially if you've got a one-page design. And the footer, you can push that down into the viewport. So let's just push it down into the viewport and see what happens. Save, and here it is. Look, there's my footer. Not a particularly good location for it. It ought to be down the bottom here somewhere. Let's have a look and see what happens. And there it is, down at the bottom. Brilliant. So that was quite useful. For those of you who are into writing some CSS, here's a template-wide custom CSS, so you can affect your whole site, or you can affect just this one template, and you'll get a little pop-up box which allows you to copy and paste CSS into. Those of you used to using Visual Composer will have seen this type of box in Visual Composer as well. It works in exactly the same way, so quite simple. Edit the CSS. You can edit the CSS for the template or for this particular layout. This is quite useful if you want to do something specific to this page. Let's go and have a look at the template CSS though. You can also get to this from the template menu itself. But in here you've got loads of options you can pick. So you can pick your body background colour and how big it is, whether you've got an image, your header background, your footer background, the general font that you're using. You'll find it's already got one font because I chose Yeti. You can set fonts for H1, H2, H3, H4 and so on, what quotes, what links hover. Your logo, you can set the various colours and so forth and the tagline, and that's just on one of these sheets. You've got posts, comments, widgets. You can format your menus. You'll recall that we chose the Ultimatum menu. So in here you can alter your margins, pick the menu height that you want, the padding between items, how much the drop down width is, and so on. You've got an awful lot of choices in here. And then you can format the tabs, the togglers, accordions, those little expand, open and close type of thing, and your slideshows. And also you've got your, again, you can go off to the template wide custom CSS screen. You'll see here it tells you what the name of your template is. One other thing I just want to tack on to the end of this little video is in settings here, there are some changes that I would recommend you make. If you don't want your tagline showing, switch it off. Save changes. Go to the front page. And it's gone. Title as logo. So if you've picked a title in your settings, general here, it can use that as the logo, or you can switch it off, put an image in. You can have a favicon, so you can pick one, put it onto the site, put the link in here to it, and you'll gain that as your icon. Otherwise the site will use this orange and white Ultimatum logo. So probably a good idea to make your own favicon. And you can choose your own image placeholder. That's something that sits there if an image is missing when it's expected to be in place. Okay, sidebar settings we won't use now, but advanced settings have got some things you really need to change. So let's have a look first of all in extra settings. And everything's off. Well, I like Ultimatum slideshows, and this enables the Ultimatum slideshow widget in the layout. So let's switch that on. Ultimatum shortcodes, there's some brilliant shortcodes for when you're editing, letting you put things like columns and what have you in, so I'm going to switch that on. I haven't got an old version of Ultimatum, so I'm not interested in that one. And I might well want to put galleries of pictures on my posts, in which case they're on. And if you remember on the layouts, all the elements that we were dragging across were on the right hand side. And on a wide screen like mine, I rather like mine underneath down here. So I'm going to switch those to elements at the bottom. We'll save changes. So the next thing to look at is tag settings, and this one is important. Not sure why, but by default the tag for the logo, the site title, is H1, and it really needs to be div. The rest of these are fine. You would imagine the page title to be H1, the proper title, and if there's more than one, it would be H2, and the widgets are H3. And then for the single post page, that's just one post on a page, the logo again wants to be a div. And the tag for the article, when it's just the only one on the page, that really wants to be H1. So just a quick recap. I've changed this one to div, this one to div, and this one to H1. And they're quite important. And they do have an effect on what your front end will look like, because this now has gone a lot smaller, as you can see. So you would need to style the logo in order to get it the size you wanted. But you can see it has changed the style of that, because it switched it from a H1, which is the heading, to a div. You'll notice here front page, this here, and if we inspect element, this is a tool that you should get used to, you can see here just at the bottom it's a H1, as it should be. Okay, you can see we've got a blog, so let's go and have a look at our blog and see what that looks like. And you can see on the blog, on the multi-page setting, I have indeed still got the placeholder showing. That's the default placeholder, which I hadn't switched off. So let's go and have a quick look at that and see how we can switch that off. So we're going to layout, and it was in this default loop here, and it's the multi-post this time. The archive title, generally you'll probably want that off. The title will have links, so that links them through to the actual single article page. Here it's got items per page. If you change this number, you also have to go into settings and into reading, and similarly change the number there. So there it is, look, 10. There's that one. You have, if you're going to change this one here, you must also change this one to match, otherwise the pagination will go wrong. What layout do you want? Well, you might want it multiple columns. I want it with a column, and it says with full image. I'm going to say without image. Do you want to show the content as excerpt or full content? Normally it's excerpt, and how long is it? 100 words. The taxonomy, I'm going to put it after the content, and again I've got the same information here as before, and I want to move my comments off there, and I want my author in. Let's try and drag that again. The author in there. I've got separated because I've got two of them. My more link, that's what you click to go on. I'd like it left aligned, and I want it just to say more. There are more options than this in Ultimatum, depending on which version of Ultimatum you've got. If you've got the Pro version, you will also have option to use Wonder Loops, which gives you a lot more control over this. So let's just save that. And if we go back to the blog and refresh it, the colours are getting somewhat garish now, but there we go. There's my more link, my date, my author, and these ones here can't be H1 because you can only have one H1 on a page. So I set them, if you recall, to H2. So let's have a look and make sure that happened. And there it is, H2. So you can see that's worked correctly. Now at the moment the page doesn't actually have a H1 on it, so you might choose to put H1 some title on. That's up to you. And you can see there that we've got the pagination as you would expect. So that's a brief introduction to layouts and templates in Ultimatum. I hope that's given you an idea of how the system works. You will find yourself making lots of layouts, and sometimes you will want those layouts for specific reasons. For example, you might want a layout that is just for the search, or you might want one just for the 404 page. So you can pick them, and the more options you create, can you see here, it's given me the option of picking any of the post type, post categories I've got, tags I've got, I can make, and formats. So you can see that I can choose layouts for specific parts of my website. These are what you would call the so-called inner pages. You would always create the layout and then assign that layout to one of those inner pages. One of the other things you're going to spot that's appeared because of you using Ultimatum, so I'm going to go to pages here and just show you so it's there. There's my front page. So if I go to edit it, up here you've got a new box called layout selection, and at the moment it's got the default, which is just use the WordPress default, and at the moment there's my template look, and I can choose default. So there I can click and select a specific layout for a specific page. So that's quite a clever way of attaching them without having to use the assign. So hopefully that's given you a good look into setting up a basic template and basic layout within Ultimatum theme. Thanks very much for watching.